This story happened in 2004 in the state of New Jersey, USA. But before I tell you about the bloody events that occurred there, I want to mention that your town might also hide dark secrets. Write your town in the comments, and perhaps the next video will reveal the truth everyone has been silent about. Britney Gregory was born on April 1st, 1988 in Brick Township, and was the youngest of 5 children in her family. As a result of her parents' divorce, she remained living with her father, but maintained close relationships with all her brothers and sisters, especially with her sister Brianna, who was 4 years older than her. In school, Britney proved herself to be an excellent student, and teachers believed she could become a scientist. However, her unusual dream was to become a forensic expert and study evidence from crime scenes. In April, the girl celebrated her 16th birthday and also kept a promise to her mother. Now she was allowed to get her navel pierced. She was also a fan of pop music Queen Britney Spears and had posters of her in her bedroom. The young girl enjoyed TV shows about the forensic expert profession that she wanted to pursue. She and her mother would usually watch the same shows simultaneously and then call each other to discuss them while watching. That's how the girl spent her leisure time. In 2004, young Britney and her older sister Brianna, who was 20 years old, lived with their father Jordan and his new girlfriend Lori Peterson in a small house not far from their school. Britney's father's house was the last one on the street and was located near a wooded area. At that time, Britney had been dating 18-year-old John Fitzgerald for almost 2 years. He was a nice guy whom Britney's family approved of. They had a very warm relationship and were considered an ideal couple. On Sunday, July 11, 2004, Britney's mother Deborah and her sister Brianna went to the town of South Toms River, about 15 miles from Britney's home, to visit her older brother and his wife, who recently had a baby girl. That same evening, at around 8:30, Britney called her mother's cell phone and asked for a ride to her boyfriend John's house. The girl's voice sounded very upset, indicating possible trouble. Her mother explained that she wasn't in town and couldn't give her a ride, but said that her sister Brianna might be there in about an hour. Britney agreed and said she would wait for her. About 45 minutes after Britney called, Brianna was free and decided to let her sister know, but she didn't answer the call. Brianna thought that Britney was asleep or that someone else had given her a ride to John's place. When Brianna returned home in the morning, she discovered that Britney wasn't there, but her belongings, including her phone, were still in place. Brianna assumed that her sister might have spent the night at her boyfriend's house, but she found it strange that the girl hadn't told anyone about it and had left her cell phone at home. This was completely unlike her. Looking for answers, Brianna began calling all of Britney's friends to see if anyone had seen her, but nobody knew anything. After unsuccessful attempts to contact her sister, Brianna decided to call John. He said that the last time he spoke with Britney was Sunday morning, and they hadn't seen or talked to each other since then. The father's girlfriend, Lori Peterson, who lived with them, reported that she returned home around 10 o'clock on Sunday evening, and Britney wasn't home. Brianna felt that something was wrong and immediately went to the police station to report Britney missing. At first, the police didn't take Brianna's concerns about her sister's disappearance seriously. They thought the girl had just run away from home or was spending time with friends. But Brianna convinced the officers that she had already called all her sister's friends and spoken with her boyfriend, but none of them knew where Britney might be. The older sister was certain that the girl couldn't have run away from home because she was an excellent student, studious, and spent most of her time in the library. Besides, Britney never left home without notice, and all her belongings, money, and phone remained at home. After Brianna convinced the police that her sister couldn't have run away from home on her own, the officers began their search. First, they went to the house where Britney lived to examine her room and try to find any clues. They also checked Britney's purse with her phone, ID, and cosmetics, which remained in her room. The police didn't find anything suspicious, and they questioned everyone who lived in the house to rule out that someone close to Britney might have been involved in her disappearance. Then they searched the entire surrounding area and talked to neighbors to find witnesses who might have seen or heard something. The officers also noted that the house was at the end of the street and that there was a wooded area nearby. With the exception of one woman who said she saw Britney walking down the street to her house late Friday evening when it was already dark, which was 2 days before Britney's disappearance. This information turned out to be insignificant, but investigators still paid attention to it. This information didn't fit the image of a modest girl who spent most of her time in the library and never went out without her parents' permission. What made Britney leave the house so late? And was she allowed to leave the house at such a time? The police really wanted to find out if Britney was really the homebody girl her sister described her as. Numerous police interrogations with her family, neighbors, and teachers showed that no one could say anything bad about this girl. Everyone spoke very well of her. During her conversation with the police, Brianna reported that Britney and her boyfriend John had recently been having tense relations. The couple often argued, and on the day of her disappearance, Britney and John had argued again. This upset the girl greatly, and that same evening, she wanted to visit John to make up with him. Investigators decided to take a closer look at John's personality. They invited him to the police station to find out if he had seen Britney on the day she disappeared. John reported that his last phone conversation with his girlfriend took place on Sunday morning. At that time, he was at the beach with friends, and Britney was upset that he went there without her. They argued about this, and they hadn't communicated since then. He also reported that he had broken up with Britney a few days ago, but she couldn't accept it, although she knew that he was already dating another girl. John claimed that he had no plans to meet with Britney that evening and didn't know that she was coming to his house or planning to do so. The reason for their breakup was rumors that Britney had kissed another guy at a party. Although John hadn't seen this himself, that's why he decided to break up with her and started dating another girl. The last time he saw Britney was on July 10th, the day before she disappeared, when she handed him a letter expressing her desire to reconcile. Detectives asked John for permission to look at the letter written by Britney, and he gave it to them. In this letter, the girl apologized for her behavior and for breaking John's heart. She also asked him to remain friends. John seemed genuinely concerned that Britney still hadn't been found. The police had no evidence linking John to the girl's disappearance, and after he successfully passed a lie detector test, he was crossed off the list of suspects. However, John did tell detectives one important detail. He said that Britney often came to his house through the woods that were behind her father's house. The story of a young girl's disappearance was becoming more and more confusing. Detectives began to wonder if she had tried to make her way through the forest to John's house that night, which was about a mile from her father's house. It was already dark, and she could have gotten lost or fallen somewhere along the way. The police began searching the forest through which Britney likely passed, possibly following a path that started near her house. Being alone in the forest at night was scary and dangerous. The search in the forest continued for 3 days, but nothing was found. When it seemed that the investigation had reached a dead end, a woman approached the police who had been with her brother in a park in the same area on the night of Britney's disappearance. It was quiet and deserted there, and no cars were visible except for one. A Chevrolet pickup truck drove by. The woman noticed this car and even remembered its license plate. After a thorough check, investigators determined that the vehicle was registered to 23-year-old Anthony Geiger. To determine his connection to this event, the police began investigating Anthony's past and found out that he was the ex-boyfriend of Britney's sister Bobby Jo. Bobby Jo told detectives that they had broken up about a month ago because Anthony was paying too much attention to Britney. She also reported that she began to suspect that Anthony, who was 23 years old, had feelings for her younger sister and eventually decided to completely end the relationship with him. Britney's friends also recalled that Anthony always looked at her strangely and tried to flirt with her. The last time they met was at lunch, where Anthony again tried to flirt with a girl. Detectives began to suspect Anthony of kidnapping Britney and decided to call him in for questioning. During the interrogation, Anthony denied being in the area on the evening of July 11th. According to him, he wasn't there until the next day, July 12th, when the police had already begun searching for the girl. He didn't deny that he was on good terms with her and often saw Britney at parties and other places, but he claimed that they were just friends and that he didn't flirt with her. Anthony also stated that he understood that the girl was too young for him and that he cared for her only as a friend. According to Anthony's testimony, he spent the evening of July 11th at home with his new girlfriend. Although this girlfriend confirmed Anthony's alibi, investigators still considered him a suspect because his house was not far from where Britney lived. Investigators returned to studying the letter that Britney had written to John and noticed alarming signs that she was saying goodbye to her loved one. They began to fear that the girl might have harmed herself after the breakup with her boyfriend. However, Britney's parents rejected this version, believing that their daughter was smart and determined and would not give up her grand plans because of a breakup with a boy. They believed that Britney was too much in love with life. After the investigation hit another dead end, the police decided to appeal to the public through the media to find possible witnesses. Additionally, police officers from other areas joined the investigation to assist them. Before continuing, write in the comments which city you're from. Perhaps the next episode will be about a crime in your region. Britney's parents also decided to take an active part in the search because they were tired of doing nothing and waiting. They decided it was time to act and began going door to door and questioning neighbors. But this yielded no results. The police decided to return to where it all began, to the house where Britney lived. So, the detectives reasoned that even if the girl had decided to walk through the forest to meet her boyfriend, it was unclear why she left her phone in her room at home. Could someone have kidnapped her right from the house? If so, was she familiar with this person? Did she trust him? During yet another thorough search of the house, the police discovered something important in Britney's room, namely her personal diary, which contained a handwritten letter. The contents of this letter were of great importance to the police as it lifted the veil of mystery surrounding the family relationships. In the letter, Britney described her life, her relationships with friends and her boyfriend, her school education, and also focused on her family. In particular, she wrote that she came from a dysfunctional family, that every Sunday she visited her older brother who was in prison, that her mother couldn't overcome her addiction and had abandoned her when she was 9 years old, and that now she had to live with her father with whom she was not very close, and also not close with his girlfriend. She wrote that she wasn't perfect and that she had to do things she wasn't proud of, but she didn't want to be like her parents and wanted to succeed in life. She wanted to become a forensic expert and help solve crimes. After reading this letter, the police expanded the circle of suspects and turned their attention to Britney's family members who they hadn't previously considered as potential suspects. Detectives began checking each member of Britney's family and discovered that there was a men's massage parlor operating in the house where she lived. Lori Peterson, the girlfriend of Britney's father, served different men every day, but all the neighbors knew that she didn't just do massages but also provided intimate services for money. It turned out that many people knew about this, and Lori herself didn't hide it, handing out her business cards throughout the neighborhood. Neighbors also reported that suspicious people who used prohibited substances often gathered at Britney's father's house. According to the police, this indicated that the atmosphere in Britney's house was troubled. Different men came to them to use Lori's services, and most of whom Britney didn't know. It was quite possible that one of her clients had kidnapped Britney from the house. More than 100 police officers started working to identify everyone who had been in Jordan's house over the past month, and this was a very difficult task. But a week after Britney went missing, on July 18th, the police announced the arrest of a murder suspect. Britney's family was shocked by this news, as the girl had been declared missing and her body had not been found. When they showed the suspect's photo on television, Britney's mother, Deborah, recognized him. It turned out to be her longtime friend, 38-year-old Jack Fuller Jr., who had attended all this family's holidays and had been close to them for 20 years, possibly kidnapped Britney. His daughter was engaged to Britney's brother, who was in prison. Deborah was in a state of shock. Why was Jack arrested and charged with murder if Britney was never found? The family couldn't believe that Jack could be involved in this case, as his children were friends with Britney. Relatives still hoped that the girl was alive. In reality, Fuller was a genuine criminal. He had been threatening neighbors of his home in Holly for most of his adult life. According to court records and interrogations, he had broken into cars and homes, as well as garden sheds, used and sold prohibited substances, threatened a man with a baseball bat, fought with the police, and lied to them about his identity after being arrested for drunk driving. Just in the last 10 years, he had been arrested more than a dozen times. He had served time in state prison for theft and violating the terms of his parole. According to neighbors, many of his crimes went unnoticed because people were afraid of him. The last time he was tried, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison and was released a year before Britney's disappearance. Britney's parents assumed that Jack might have stolen money or jewelry to buy prohibited substances, but they didn't believe that he could harm their daughter. Soon after Fuller's arrest, it became known how the police managed to connect him to Britney's disappearance. It all started with a call to the police station. The caller said that a few days earlier, he had talked to Jack, who complained to him about back pain that arose after he buried a girl's body in sandy soil. Jack assured the man that the place where he hid the body would never be found and asked how deep he should bury a body so that animals wouldn't smell it. The police invited the informant to the station and offered him to wear a listening device so that when meeting with Jack Fuller, he could question him about crimes, including Britney's murder. The informant agreed. And at the meeting, Fuller told him that he had buried the girl's body in a remote place and that it would never be found. Although he confessed to committing murder, he never mentioned Britney's name. Additionally, Fuller stated that he needed to kill someone else who knew too much, pointing to his friend Tommy, who was in the car and didn't hear these words. Detectives were sure that Tommy knew something important that could help solve this case. Otherwise, Jack Fuller wouldn't want to get rid of him. Detectives came to Tommy's house and took him to the station for questioning, but he refused to cooperate, stating that he didn't know anything. The detectives knew he was lying, and to prove their point, they played the recorded conversation in which Jack says he wants to kill Tommy because he knows too much. Tommy realized that he was in danger and decided to cooperate with the police. He told them that on the night Britney disappeared, he and Jack were driving around the neighborhood. They stopped in front of Britney's house, and Jack decided to go inside to talk about something with her father. When he entered the house, there was no one there except the girl. After 5 minutes, Jack returned to the car with Britney, and she sat in the back seat. According to Tommy, he was confused and asked what was happening. Britney didn't answer anything. She lowered her gaze, and Jack said that he was going to drive Tommy home. Tommy claimed that Jack drove him home, and when he got out of the car, Britney, who was sitting in the back, also got out of the car and sat in the front passenger seat, and then she and Jack drove away. The next day, when they met again, Jack didn't say anything about what had happened the night before. They went to a car wash where Jack thoroughly washed his car inside and out. This was unusual because he had never done this before. The car wash attendant even joked about it, but Jack got angry and told him not to mind his own business, or he would risk his life. Tommy explained that when he found out about the girl's disappearance, he realized that Jack might be involved and directly asked him what he had done with the girl. Jack was very angry at this question and replied that he had taken her home and then left, rudely asking him not to ask about it anymore if he didn't want trouble. Tommy suggested that Jack took Britney to the forest to take advantage of her because that night he was counting on getting intimate services from Lori, but she wasn't home. Detectives realized that Jack was the man they needed. When they arrived to arrest him, Jack had a gas canister in his hands, and he looked as if he was about to set his car on fire. Was he going to burn the car to destroy evidence? But it seems that was the case. During the search, blood was found in the car, and forensic examination determined that it was Britney's blood. After the police found out that Jack had visited a car wash after the trip with Britney, they went there and confiscated the vacuum cleaner he had used. Forensic scientists discovered sand particles stuck together with blood inside the vacuum cleaner. The examination conducted left no doubt that it was Britney's blood. Despite the evidence available to the police, Jack would not admit to the kidnapping and murder of Britney and refused to talk about it. Detectives questioned all of Jack's acquaintances, and most of them were sure that he was capable of murder. Many described him as a person ready for anything, and despite the fact that Jack was unemployed, he always had money. During the investigation, it was revealed that on the night of Britney's disappearance, one of the patrol officers saw a car parked on the side of the road near the forest. It was Jack Fuller's car. At that time, it was not yet known that Britney had disappeared. When the police officer approached Jack, he said that he was looking for his dog that had run into the forest. Given this information, the search for the body was concentrated in the area where the officer had seen Jack's car. The search involved police officers, K-9 units, helicopters, volunteers, but nothing was found. Investigators assumed that Britney desperately needed someone to drive her to her boyfriend's house on the night when Jack appeared at her home. She asked him to do it. Jack agreed to take her where she needed to go, but instead, he drove his friend Tommy home, and he himself decided to take advantage of the situation to abuse the girl and then kill her. But to prove this, they needed to find Britney. While the police were trying to interrogate Jack and get a confession from him, another witness appeared. A woman called the police and reported that if Jack Fuller had indeed killed Britney, then she might know where he had hidden her body. This woman had previously used prohibited substances, and Jack once held her hostage for several months before she escaped. During this time, she had gotten to know Jack well and learned all his secrets, where he went and what he did. He often visited the same places and took her with him. Once he showed her a place near a power line and said that it was a great place to bury her and that no one would ever find her body there. Detectives first didn't believe this woman and began asking her questions. She reported that this place was in Litwood, where the soil was sandy. The police immediately remembered the words of the informant, who told them how Jack had complained to him about the difficulties of burying a body in sandy soil. The authorities decided to conduct a search in the area that the woman had indicated. This place was only 3 miles from the house where Britney lived. After several days of searching, they still hadn't gotten any results, but continued the search anyway, because experts had compared the sand from the vacuum cleaner that Fuller had used at the car wash with the soil in this area and got a perfect match. More than 100 people a day searched the dense forest. Britney's grave was finally discovered on Tuesday morning, July 27, 2004, 15 days after she was reported missing. She was found by 3 New Jersey State Police officers who brought their dogs to help with the search on the weekend. The naked body of the young girl was found in a pit, and around her neck was a necklace with the name Britney. Detectives immediately realized that they had finally found her. The forensic expert who conducted the autopsy confirmed that it was Britney Gregory's body, but he could not determine the exact cause of her death because she had been strangled and also received a major head injury. The body had been decomposing for 2 weeks, and the forensic expert said he could not rule out strangulation. No obvious signs of violence were found on Britney's body. Jack Fuller decided to take a plea deal after consulting with his lawyer. Britney's family also agreed to this deal to avoid a long and difficult trial. Britney's mother stated that she didn't want the death penalty for Jack because it would be too easy for him. She wanted him to spend the rest of his life in prison, suffering and regretting what he had done. Jack said that Britney had asked him to drive her to her boyfriend's house, and he agreed. First, he drove Tommy home, and then he was going to take the girl to her boyfriend, but before that, he stopped on the side of the road and began smoking one of his prohibited substances. This angered Britney. She started yelling at him and hit him on the arm. This made the man angry, and he began to hit the girl with his fists. He admitted that he hit her in the face and head at least twice for trying to stop him from smoking this mixture. After the beating, Britney began making choking and gurgling sounds. Fuller continued to get high while blood was flowing from her mouth and nose. And when he finally focused on Britney's body, he saw that she wasn't moving or breathing. Then he realized that she was dead and decided to dispose of the body. However, no one believed his story because the forensic expert found signs of strangulation on Britney's body, which Fuller did not mention. Besides, he never explained why he removed all of Britney's clothes. The prosecution believed that the crime was committed on intimate grounds. On February 9, 2005, an Ocean County grand jury indicted Fuller for murder. On October 18th, he pleaded guilty to purposely and knowingly causing serious bodily injury, resulting in death. On January 13th, 2006, Fuller was sentenced to 30 years in prison without the possibility of parole. I wonder how many people watched this episode to the end. If you're one of them, write "I'm brave" in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Detective Brooks' channel. See you next time.